Well, it's been a very big weekend in property with auction results and numbers now hitting their highest levels since December. But are buyers really feeling that confident after the Reserve Bank's recent rate cut? To break it all down this afternoon, let's bring in Emily Rayner, property editor at view.com.au. Emily, good afternoon. So let's break this down. What are the national auction results looking like?
Well, it was a pretty supercharged weekend. We saw 2,820 auctions nationwide, which is actually the highest volume we've had since December last year. And buyers were really out in force. The preliminary clearance rate hit 72.1%, which is the best since July. And Sydney had some really strong showings, the best in the country. Melbourne wasn't far behind. Adelaide and Canberra both had solid weekends too, but Brisbane lagged behind a little bit.
So big numbers. What stood out in particular across the country?
We can definitely see there's a couple of hotspots that caught our attention. In Sydney, the western suburbs auction activity really heated up over the weekend, showing a lot of strong demand in more affordable areas. In Melbourne, it was the high-end markets that led the charge, which suggests that buyers are really feeling confident enough to start to stretch their budgets, and we can possibly attribute that to the rate cut. Speaking of competitions, auction crowds were absolutely buzzing. According to Ray White, the average auction had 3.6 registered bidders, with 2.5 who were actively throwing their hands up at auction.
So the big question is, in light of that move by the Reserve Bank last week, are we starting to see a shift in buyer confidence, and how will that affect the market?
It's still really early days, but we can see signs that definitely higher clearance rates are coming in. We're seeing stronger bidder activity, and they point to buyers being more willing to jump in and put their hands up at auction. So really over the next couple of weeks, we'll be seeing if the trend holds up and if we see these increased clearance rates and increased buyer activity.
Wait and see indeed. Now, Emily, before we go, in lighter property news, and it involves comedian Andy Lee and his latest home upgrade. This is incredible.
Yeah, Andy Lee and his fiancée Rebecca Harding are in the middle of a massive reno in their historic Ravenswood mansion in Hawthorn, and the latest addition is a golf simulator. Andy shared behind-the-scenes looks on his Instagram page and showed off the excavation site where the garage and eventually a pool will be sitting. But the real highlight is he's promised tradies first dibs at the new golf sim once it's installed. We've got him here on screen.
I love it. Nice for some. Em, thank you very much. Have a lovely afternoon.
Thanks, Tash.